Armed conflict is something that often happens in tabletop RPGs, but usually on a small scale. Even if the player characters participate in a war, they usually participate in raids, subterfuge, or other special missions that are not part of the actual battle between the two armies. After all, a single character on the battlefield is unlikely to change the outcome of the battle significantly, unless of course he is someone like an archmage who can affect entire armies. After all, GURPS does have the GURPS Magic Artillery Spells book, but this is not what I am going to talk about today. If the battle is something that you want to play out with the rules, not just something that happens in the background narratively, then you need a mass combat system. You cannot resolve such large-scale battles using the normal rules, and probably not even the Horde rules from GURPS Zombies. Fortunately, GURPS has the GURPS Mass Combat book, but it can be difficult to wrap your head around. But I am here to help. In this series, I will try to explain how mass combat works and what extensions of the rule set exist in other sources. This video will be devoted to the basics. I am not even going to talk about the actual combat rules. Each army consists of two parts, the fighting force and the logistic force. Logistics are treated quite abstractly, so let's talk about the fighting force first. Each fighting force consists of elements. Depending on its nature, an element can represent a squad of soldiers, a vehicle with a crew, a large monster, or anything in between. GURPS Mass Combat has many elements to choose from, so let's take a look at one of them and see what statistics an element has. As an example, I will show you the light chariots. TS is troop strength. This is an abstract combat rating. Mass combat in GURPS is quite abstract, so the combat capabilities of an element are determined by a single number. You don't have separate melee or ranged combat ratings, no separate offensive or defensive ratings, just troop strength. The higher it is, the better the unit is. Sometimes troop strength is given in parentheses. This means support troop strength. It counts only when determining your army's special class superiority. I will explain what it means in another video. Then we have the special class. This matters when you determine your army's special class superiority, and again, I will explain it in the next video. For now, I will just tell you what the classes are. Air combat, armor, artillery, cavalry, command, control, communications and intelligence, engineering, fire, naval, recon, transport. There are some additional special classes. Space was introduced in Pyramid 330, and phasing was introduced in Pyramid 384. Our light chariots have the cavalry and fire classes, because they are, well, cavalry and have archers. The transport class is special in that it is also followed by a number that indicates the transport's carrying capability. CWT. This is transport weight of the element. For example, a T8 element would be able to transport up to 2 elements of light chariots, since chariots have transport weight of 4. The next statistic is the mobility class. It determines how the element moves. This is important for overland movement. The mobility class of 0 means that the element is immobile and must be transported by elements with a transport class. There are 4 land mobility classes: foot, mounted, motorized and mechanized. There are 2 water mobility classes: coastal and sea. There are 2 air mobility classes: slow air and fast air. There are also 2 special mobility classes: space from Pyramid 330 and teleportation from Pyramid 384. The latter can also be used to teleport other elements, sort of like a transport. Our light chariots are mounted. Then we have 2 costs: cost to raise and cost to maintain. If you are playing a commander, you probably are just given the fighting force to command. If you are playing a king, for example, Then you have to decide how to spend your military budget. Cost to raise is paid only once, and cost to maintain is paid each month. The cost to raise also determines how long does it take to train an element. Optionally, you may pay more to increase the recruitment speed. The final parameter is the TL when this element is first introduced. This is self-explanatory, but I should note that some elements have their troop strength doubled for each TL above the TL of their introduction. Such elements have their TS marked with an asterisk. You can also customize your elements with optional features. Each optional feature affects the cost to raise and maintain. There are two generic special features: troop quality and equipment quality. Troop quality ranges from inferior to elite, and equipment quality ranges from poor to very fine. Pyramid 384 expands these scales, adding the best equipment quality grade and world-class and legendary troop quality grades. There are many special features, I won't list them, but just keep in mind that you can adapt your troops to a specific terrain type or condition, make them amphibious or nocturnal, fanatical or disloyal, give them an ability to neutralize a specific class of elements, etc. However, I will list magazines that introduce new features: Pyramid 330, 367, 384 and 393. Using combinations of base elements and these optional features, you can represent almost any kind of combat unit. Let's turn our light chariots into something more specific. Ashworm chariots. These are chariots drawn by ashworms and manned by desert elven archers. Both the worms and the elves are adapted to life in the desert and can see well at night. As you can see, I took the light chariot base element, gave it fine equipment, good troops quality, and added the night and terrain desert features. Now we have something much less generic. Since we have adjusted all the numbers, you can just list them as ashworm chariots on your army roster sheet, and you don't have to write all these stat blocks out every time. That's it for the fighting force, but we also have the logistic force. Unlike the fighting force, the logistic force is not represented by the elements, but just with a LS logistic strength rating. However, there are 4 classes of logistic force: land, naval, air and space. Logistic force has cost to raise that depends on its class and cost to maintain. Fortunately, logistic force itself does not require another logistic force to maintain it, it maintains itself. If you are not maintaining your troops properly and lack proper logistic force, then your fighting force will have decreased TS. It's that simple. And that's it for this video, but stay tuned for more, as this is way too big of a topic to cover in a single video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.